All right, thanks, Joey. Well, time now for a check of your top stories. And Russian and Ukrainian diplomatic teams are expected to meet face-to-face on Monday for the third time since the war began 11 days ago. A negotiated humanitarian corridor to deliver food, among other supplies, to villages and cities in desperate need collapsed for the second time this weekend during heavy fighting. As the pace and scale of the attacks intensify, so does the rush to escape for millions in Ukraine. Jay Gray has been following it all and has the latest for us from the Polish-Ukrainian border.
Residents scrambling to escape the shelling in this village outside of Kyiv. Homes and businesses battered and burning. Ukraine soldiers frantically trying to guide families to buses and other vehicles so they can make their escape. A senior U.S. military official says about 95% of the combat power Russia had lined along the Ukraine border is now in country, but facing strong resistance. Often from volunteers, businessmen, tradesmen lining up to fight.
And our guys that are actually standing there and fighting Russian military forces, they know what they are doing.
Intelligence officials expect the fighting will intensify over the next several days, especially in some of the larger Ukrainian cities. That threat pushing even more people across the border.
We know that hundreds of thousands are on the move inside Ukraine, including just across the border here, and it is very likely that we will see a large influx continue in the next few days.
Joining more than 1.5 million who've already made the journey to safety, now packed into train stations, bus terminals, makeshift hospitals and shelters, uncertain of what may come next. Jay Gray, NBC News, along the Polish-Ukrainian border.
And meantime, more companies are pulling their goods and services from Russia. On Sunday, several companies announced they would suspend services in Russia, including streaming service Netflix. A Netflix spokesperson saying, quote, "Given the circumstances on the ground, we have decided to suspend our service in Russia," end quote. Now, FedEx earlier had suspended inbound service to Russia, but now has halted all package movements, including domestic deliveries in both Russia and Belarus. That's all according to an employee memo back on Friday. Now, TikTok also announced it is suspending live streaming and new content in Russia, but its in-app messaging service will not be affected. And switching gears now, in Puerto Rico, residents will soon be paying more on their water bill. And today, our Francis Felix explains why and when that price increase will take place.
On July 1st, the 1.2 million clients of the Puerto Rico Aqueduct and Sewer Authority, PRASA, residential, commercial, industrial, and government will receive a 2% increase in their bill, which will be repeated at least for 5 years. This is the second block of multi-year moderate adjustments contained in the PRASA Certified Fiscal Plan, which began in January 2018 and are justified to cover the potential increase in operating costs in the public corporation, as well as to enter the resources equivalent to project obligations. The two increase for subscribers in the base charge will be an additional 54 cents per month, while for those in the first block of consumption, it will be an extra $1. Of the 1.2 million clients that PRASA has, 95% are residential, and of those, almost 50% are located between the base charge and the first consumption block. The base charge covers a consumption of up to 10 cubic meters per month, and the first block between 10 and 15 cubic meters. The increase in water is part of other sudden increases that hits Puerto Rican pockets. On January 1st, of 3.67 cents or 16.8% in the electricity bill, and between 5 and 15 cents in the tolls operated by Metropistas. From San Juan, Puerto Rico, Francis Felix.
All right, thanks so much, Francis. In the meantime, leaders from across the Caribbean gathered last week for the CARICOM conference in Belize. The Bahamian Prime Minister spoke about his takeaways from that conference. And our One Caribbean News, Deidre Hamilton has that for us today.
Minister of the Bahamas, Philip Davis, provided an update on the first session of the 33rd intersessional meeting of the Conference of CARICOM Heads of Government held on March 1st in Belize. While speaking during a briefing with his press secretary, Davis talked about his highlight from the session.
It has been very interesting. What is clear is that challenges are common in this region amongst the various islands and jurisdictions. The highlight for me was the impact of COVID on our various communities. We had an overview of the same from CAFA, and one of the issues, and this is where I made an intervention. And the intervention is the balancing between saving lives and protecting livelihoods. And I think that was well received by the community.
Prime Minister Davis was the chairman of tourism at the CARICOM sitting. During his briefing, he noted that it's important for member states to reset their position on tourism where COVID-19 protocols are concerned so as to not lose out on the market.
And so we have to find a way to reset our position. We have to look at where we are in respect to our competitors and not lose our market share because we want to continue to have measures that makes it difficult for guests to visit our shores.
Food security, do you believe that's an issue of importance that needs to be discussed during these meetings?
Again, it's all undergirded by the concern with the pandemic. The pandemic has shown that the interruption of food supplies to our various communities is a serious challenge.
Davis further noted that food security was a highlight of the CARICOM session and more discussions will take place so that member states can find solutions to the problems they're facing. DeAndre Hamilton reporting.
And still ahead here on